Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer. Welcome back to part 4 of our deep dive into the Sanaessencia series. Today, we're completely bypassing the standard advice, so no generic take a deep breath platitudes here. Instead, we're looking straight at a really fascinating neurochemical backdoor that you can use to literally hack your own nervous system. To understand exactly how we're going to manipulate our biology, we'll quickly cover 5 key areas today: the autonomic stress crisis, the olfactory highway hack, molecules and GABAergic calming, classical conditioning and anchors, and finally, daily regulation with Sanaessencia. All right, section 1, the autonomic stress crisis. Let's look at why high performers so frequently hit a physiological wall. So why can't we just think our way out of stress? It's a great question, right? We've all been there. You feel totally overwhelmed, and you try to rationalize yourself into feeling calm. But the cold, hard biological truth is that when your autonomic nervous system is hyperactivated, cognitive logic simply goes offline. Your executive function is literally shoved into the back seat, and your primal survival mechanisms just hijack the steering wheel. You absolutely cannot outthink a biological stress response. And that brings us to what's actually happening under the hood. For adults dealing with ADHD or executive fatigue, or women navigating perimenopause, this isn't just a mood issue, it's structural. Take perimenopause, for instance. Natural shifts in estrogen and progesterone lead to a reduction in a neurosteroid called allopregnanolone. Now, why does that matter? Because that specific chemical is the literal key that turns on your GABAergic tone, basically your nervous system's built-in brake pedals. When those drop, your system's physical capacity to calm itself actually diminishes. Similarly, high-pressure rolls can cause severe dopaminergic drops and temporal drift from cognitive overload. The whole system is just biologically compromised. So, here's the crucial takeaway from all this. Passive resting is simply insufficient for a chronically dysregulated system. Just sitting on the couch, that's not going to magically fix it. The system needs active, deliberate, biological cues to find its baseline again. Which brings us nicely to section 2, the olfactory highway hack. This might just be the most direct backdoor into human physiology. Let's be super clear about our terms here. We are not talking about spas or generic pampering. We are talking strictly about neuro aromachology. This is the scientific application of specific inhaled molecules to directly alter autonomic nervous system chemistry and dampen stress reactivity. It's hard science, purely focused on regulating your internal state. And the anatomy behind this is brilliant. It's a total anomaly. Think about it like this. When you see or hear something, that sensory data gets filtered at a turtle's pace through the thalamus, which is basically the brain's switchboard. But the olfactory bypass is completely different. Inhaled molecules travel instantaneously, no switchboard required, hitting your emotional centers directly in the limbic system, the amygdala and the hippocampus. It's literally the fastest sensory pathway to your brain's regulatory centers. Now for section 3, molecules and GABAergic calming. Let's look at exactly what happens when those molecules actually hit those brain centers. The hard data on this is just fascinating. A peer-reviewed frontier study proved that inhaling a specific molecule called linalool measurably dampens anxiety. The subjects in the study spent significantly more time exploring a light box, acting completely relaxed. But here is the crazy part. When researchers temporarily induced anosmia, meaning they totally blocked the subject's ability to smell, the calming effect vanished entirely. The physical inhalation of the molecule itself is the absolute trigger. So how does this actually form a reliable biological pathway? Well, step 1, you inhale a targeted molecule like linalool. Step 2, the olfactory bulb processes it instantly. Step 3, your limbic system lights up. Step 4, and honestly, this is the magic right here. It triggers BDZ-responsive GABA-A transmission. This acts much like clinical anti-anxiety medications do, literally putting the brakes on your nervous system, which results in step 5, complete autonomic dampening. And hey, if you doubt this is a true chemical reaction, get this. Researchers proved the mechanism using flumazenil. That's a drug that specifically blocks GABA receptors. When they gave it to subjects, it completely neutralized the calming effect of the scent. This absolutely proves the scent isn't just a pleasant distraction. It is chemically binding to the brain's pathways to force a state of calm. Moving on to section 4, classical conditioning and anchors. How do we take all this neurobiology and really supercharge it using behavioral science? We do it through a concept called anchoring. Have you ever smelled something that instantly took you right back to your childhood? Well, we can actually engineer that reflex. By deliberately combining a specific functional fragrance with a desired state of calm, you create a conditioned reflex. Think of it as establishing a repeatable sensory cue to instantly trigger a predictable physiological and emotional state shift. You're basically teaching your brain, hey, when I smell this specific molecule, we shift into this exact state. Building this regulatory reflex is a real game changer. You capitalize on Pavlovian association by using these consistent sensory cues at your daily transition points, like finishing work or right before sleep. And here is a fantastic pro tip. Pair the inhalation with an extended exhale breathing pattern. Breathing out longer than you breathe in directly stimulates the vagus nerve simultaneously. So you're hitting your nervous system with a chemical signal through the nose and a mechanical signal through the breath. It dramatically lowers your overall cognitive burden. Your brain just effortlessly resets itself. Let's pull this all together now in Section 5, Daily Regulation with Sanaessencia. We're going to map this directly to how we use the brand for daily autonomic mastery. We can actually map exactly how Sanaessencia acts as a precise functional tool. For example, if you're dealing with ADHD executive fatigue driven by underactive dopamine or heavy cognitive load, you deploy focus and cognitive reset molecules. On the flip side, for the HPA hyperreactivity and low GABA associated with perimipause overwhelm, you switch to GABAergic calming molecules, like the linalool we talked about. And for general transition friction, when you just have an autonomic state shift failure, you use consistent sensory anchoring. It's really all about matching a specific molecular intervention to your precise state of dysregulation. And you've got to remember this core philosophy. Frequent micro-recoveries beat occasional restoration every single time. You don't need a 2-week vacation to fix your nervous system. You need tiny, targeted interventions. By using Sanaessencia for small, active resets throughout your day, you prevent the friction from building up in the first place. You keep your nervous system well below its breaking point. So, I'll leave you with this. How many years have you spent trying to simply think your way out of stress only to hit a wall? Knowing that you now have a scientifically validated neurochemical backdoor right at your fingertips, how will you design your own neuroenvironments to hack your autonomic state? Think about your transitions, think about your anchors, and start hacking your biology today. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.